Welcome to this visual presentation on learning theories, done for class Education 6651, Teaching Leadership in the Classroom. I'll be your guide today, Christian Brunelli. Or, for the visual learners, this is me, the guy with the glasses. We're broadcasting this on November 11, 2011, and we're broadcasting from Crampon, New York, a small town north of the Hudson, or once again for the visual learners, right here. So let's go over our agenda for today. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is a teacher versus student-centric model of education and how this applies to learning theories. After that, I'll review the history of learning theories and some of their implications. Next, I'll look at brain science and what it means for education, including the theories of Kahneman and Tversky, and also the recent research on left and right brains, and how this leads to connections with some of the learning theories presented in class. So let's begin. In the movie The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie and the headmaster, Miss Mackay, have a dispute between the student-centric and the teaching-centric view of education. In their discussion, Brodie says, "To me, education is a leading out. The word education comes from the root ex, meaning out, and duco, I lead. Education is a leading out of what is already there." When Miss Mackay responds that she'd hoped there'd be some putting in, she says that would not be education, but intrusion, because intrusion is in, and the stem is that trudo, to thrust, ergo to thrust information into a pupil's head. Obviously, Brodie disagrees with this view. So we have two views of education. The first one is this idea of Miss Mackay that we just open up the student's head and pour the knowledge in, and Brodie's idea that we open up the brain and we lead out what's already in there. Now, the teacher-centric view of education is very close to this idea of opening and pouring in information. And we have many, let's say, examples in popular culture of this model of education. For example, most of us can remember the teacher in the Peanuts cartoon who would wah 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 while the students look perplexed in their classrooms. And I think this is what often teacher-centric, learning-centric advocates have in mind when they talk about teacher-centered education. The students don't understand, and the teacher is continuing on off a script. Alternatively, you might say teacher-based education in the notion of Barry Beers is a little bit like Ben Stein in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when he's lecturing economics, prompting occasionally for someone, anyone see this before? And all he gets back are blank stares from his student, screeching with his chalk and talk on the chalkboard. But what does teacher-centered education really look like? Those things are obviously caricatures, fictional creation to describe an experience that supposedly we all have. But we can look at other countries that have teacher-centered education, such as Japan. Let's take a look at a Japanese classroom. Here's a Japanese classroom from 1920. Okay, as you can see, each of the students doing the same thing, facing forward, an originally organized classroom with very little stimulation on the walls of the classroom. This would be a math lesson. You can see the abacuses on the tables. But if you look at a more recent Japanese classroom, you get more or less the same picture, a teacher-centric education, a teacher-centric lesson. And just to give you another view of a Japanese classroom, once again we see everyone lined up in a row, looking forward at the teacher as they're presenting.